My aunt is very abusive towards my younger brother, and it's all because of his sexual preference. Well, I'm about to drop an absolute bombshell on my aunt that's going to change her perspective about this once and for all. Are people still extremely judgmental in this day and age? Here I thought that everyone was moving with the times and there were more open-minded people. Well, this will definitely be an interesting read for you guys. I never thought I would ever write here, but hey, there's a first time for everything. I apologize for it being lengthy, but it's definitely worth the read. Alright, let me start by giving you guys some context so that you can fully understand the depth of the situation. I'm 25, female, have a stepbrother who's gay and proud, which I love and admire him. I myself am bisexual, and our parents are very supportive, and when we told them about our sexuality, they accepted us with open arms. Even though I was super terrified of coming out to my father, because of his strict religious upbringing and backgrounds, he accepted me. So here's where everything gets toxic. My father has a younger sister, and my aunt Ashley, who is very religious and judgmental, but I also found out that she is very much against our lifestyle. She truly believes that me and Jake are going to hell and that we're demons sent to Earth to influence and recruit people to join her demonic cult. Yeah, that was a hectic mouthful. I never knew somebody could have so much hate in their heart. The sad part is my aunt is very abusive and cruel towards Jake. She calls him all sorts of names and even offensive slurs. My father says that we should give her time to digest everything and that she'll eventually come around. It's been over 2 years since she found out both me and Jake's sexuality, and things are not getting better. Clearly, she'll never come around, which is very unfortunate because it's caused more strain on our already strained, complicated relationship. Anyways, on to the reason why I'm writing this today. It was a warm Saturday, and we were having a family barbecue at my father's place. I was busy in the kitchen helping my stepmother and preparing the salads for the barbecue. She asked me how was everything going, and I told her about my new relationship, which, by the way, was with a woman. She told me that she was happy for me and simply wished me all the best. As I was about to respond, my aunt walked in, and with a huge smile on her face, she greeted us and we greeted her back. She asked what we were talking about, and I told her that we were talking about my new girlfriend. She cringed when I mentioned the word girlfriend, and she gave me a fake smile and asked me to tell her more about this new relationship of mine. I looked at her confused because I was expecting her to leave the moment I mentioned the word girlfriend. Thank goodness Jake walked in with my cousin Andrew, and Jake told us that my father wanted us to take the salads outside so that we could start setting up the table. We took the salads and drinks outside, and I noticed that my aunt was being nice to Jake for once, which was strange because she usually ignored him and acted like he did not exist, but that day she was actually taking him in with proper manner. We took our seats and started to eat. While we were eating, my aunt kept on asking me about my girlfriend. She told me that she would love to meet her and that I should bring her to the upcoming family reunion. I raised my eyebrows at her because I could not believe that she really said that. Jake also looked at me with his eyebrows raised as well. My father agreed with my aunt and told me that I should definitely invite my girlfriend to the family reunion so that everybody could meet her. I told them that I would think about it because their relationship was still fairly new and I did not know how serious we were yet. After we finished eating, I was busy cleaning up the kitchen. My aunt walked in and offered to help me. She did not wait for an answer and started wiping the dishes, and I shrugged my shoulders. There was an awkward silence, but it did not last long. My aunt then told me that she wanted to talk to me about something very serious. I looked at her suspiciously and told her to talk. The words that came out of her mouth absolutely shocked me. She proceeded to tell me that she was sorry for the way that she's been treating me ever since I told her about my sexuality. I slowly nodded my head to show her that I was acknowledging what she was saying. She continued to say that she felt awful for judging, and that was, well, she was doing something very non-Christian-like, and she regretted how she handled the whole situation. I then told her that I appreciate the apology and I hope that she genuinely means it. So, she flashed a smile and told me that she did mean it. She continued to tell me that she really wanted to work on our relationship because I am her only niece. I decided to swallow my pride and told her that I would love to work on our relationship, especially because it would make my father happy. Well, she gave me a huge hug and told me that she was happy that I agreed to work things out with her. After a while, my aunt and Andrew left. I found my stepmother outside having a glass of wine, and I decided to join her because I needed a bit of advice. She asked me if it was true that my aunt told me that she wanted to work on a relationship. I nodded my head and admitted to her that I was a bit skeptical about it. My stepmother advised me to give my aunt the benefit of the doubt. I told her that it was a bit hard to do because of all the horrible things that she had said about me. She told me that she completely understood why I was so hesitant. As we discussed and spoke about the whole situation, I received a text from my aunt, and it was her inviting me out for lunch. Which was a first. I guess that she really wanted to work on our relationship, and I mean, she's never invited me out to lunch before. So it looked like she was extending an olive branch. Hopefully, this also meant that she would no longer be rude and mean to Jake, because that would definitely show me that she really wants to work on our relationship and that she has changed. Update number 1. Hey guys, so a week's passed since the barbecue, and I was having lunch with my aunt. We were busy catching up and eating, and I was actually enjoying myself, and she was being really cool, which was a first. I've never been close to my aunt, mainly because she's always been very judgmental and strict. She continued asking me questions about my girlfriend, which I found weird at first, but my stepmother advised me to be open with my aunt, so that she could get more comfortable talking about these type of things with me. She then started asking me questions about Jake, and I tried my best to tell bits and pieces of information regarding Jake. When she was done asking me about him, I told her that I really enjoyed myself and that we should do this more often. She then told me that we would definitely do this more often, and next time she would also invite Jake so that she can get to know him a bit more as well. I could tell that she forced herself to suggest inviting Jake to our next lunch. But at least she was trying that and is doing better than nothing. We finished up and said our goodbyes. I decided to go visit my cousin Andrew since I did not get to talk to him much at the barbecue last week. Me and Andrew are very close, and it's been that way since we were little kids. He's also been supportive of both me and Jake coming out, and he once told me that he admires how confident I am in my sexuality. So, I arrived at his place and noticed that his front door wasn't closed. I felt the hairs on my neck standing up in a panic. Why is his door open and not closed? Is he in some sort of trouble? I wondered. My mind started thinking of every horrible scenario that you could possibly think of. What if he's hurt or injured, and I'm busy standing outside worrying instead of going to check on him? I walked into the apartment and he was not in the living room or kitchen. The palms on my hands started sweating because I was so anxious and scared. So, I get to his room and he was also not there. As I was about to take out my phone to call him, I heard laughter coming from outside. I quickly rushed out to the patio and I was shocked by what I found and saw. I found Andrew and Jake busy cuddling on the bench outside. They looked very cozy and they even shared a kiss, and I gasped in shock. Not realizing how loud my gasp was, they immediately broke apart and faced my direction. Andrew stood up looking very embarrassed while Jake looked like his unusual, unbothered self. Andrew started stuttering while asking me what I was doing there. Well, I told him that I had just had lunch with his mother, so I thought that I would drop by. Jake raised his eyebrow and asked me when I was so close to my aunt. I told him that she and I agreed to work on our relationship, and he shook his head and told me that I was being way too nice to a person who used to always verbally abuse me. I should have listened to him, but we will get to that. I told him that I was giving her the benefit of the doubt, especially because she's family, He just shook his head again and then told us that he was going to have a smoke. As soon as he walked away, Andrew pulled me inside the house and closed the sliding door. He frantically told me that I saw was not what it looked like, and that I should not look much into it. I looked at him confused and asked him, why is he trying so hard to cover this up? He told me that he wasn't covering anything up. I saw how nervous and scared he was, and I told him to calm down. And we took a seat on the couch. I asked him what's going on, and he took a big breath and explained everything to me. He told me that he had always been knowing that he's gay. I asked him why he's never told me, and he told me that he did not know how and that he was scared. Well, I asked him why was he scared to confide in me when he knew my sexuality. He admitted that the reason he never came out and told anybody about his sexuality was because he saw how his mother ill-treated me and Jake. He also explained to me that his mother had once threatened to disown him if she ever found out that he wanted to be sinful, like me and Jake. I had almost forgotten how, much my aunt did not like our lifestyle. I nodded my head and rubbed his shoulder, and I told him that I completely understand why he was not able to confide in me. He thanked me for being so understanding, and we sat in awkward silence for a moment. I asked him if we were going to address the elephant in the room. He laughed and started blushing, and I asked him what's going on with him and Jake, and he told me that they've been seeing each other for a while and things have been going well. I smiled at him because I could see how happy he was. He continued to tell me that they've only recently made things official and that he was definitely falling in love with him. I told him that I was so happy for the both of them. Jake then walked in with a huge grin on his face, and he asked me if Andrew had told me the good news, and I nodded my head. He said he was happy that he no longer had to keep his secret away from me anymore. I told him that I was happy for them, and that I wished them all the best in their relationship. I stood up to get ready to leave when Andrew pulled me back down with a serious look on his face. He asked me to please not tell anyone about him and Jake, and that he can't take the risk of his mother finding out just yet. I looked at him and then at Jake, who nodded his head in agreement to what Andrew was saying, and I promised Andrew that I would not mention their relationship to anyone. But I also told him that I genuinely think and believe that his mother has turned over a new leaf. Andrew shook his head and pleaded for me not to tell anybody, and promised him that I would not tell anyone. Well, as I drove home, I thought to myself, even though I felt that Andrew should tell my aunt about his relationship, I would respect the fact that he did not want her to know, and that's his decision. I did really believe that my aunt had turned a new leaf. I mean, not once did she insult me or have anything negative to say about my relationship, so that must have been an indication that she was truly trying to change, and not be so dang judgmental anymore. Update number 2. Never in my life did I think I would ever go through some drama like this. It just shows that you just can't trust words, and I never thought I would have to learn this through a family member, but I guess that's life. It's been a few weeks since my lunch with my aunt, and I found out about my cousin and stepbrother's relationship. It was the family's reunion, and it was at my grandmother's house. After thinking deeply, I ended up deciding to bring my girlfriend Nicole to the reunion. Things have been getting serious, so I felt that it's the perfect time to introduce her to my family since she introduced me to her family a few weeks back. We arrived at my grandmother's house, and everybody was there. We first went around greeting everybody, and I was busy introducing Nicole, but I did notice that my aunt was giving us some dirty looks, which I found rather odd. We finally reached my father, stepmother, and aunt, and I greeted them, but only my father and stepmother greeted us back. My aunt rolled her eyes at us, and I greeted her again, and she bluntly ignored me. I was confused and asked myself if I've done something to her because we had not spoken in a while. I thought it's just because we were both busy women, but it seemed like something was actually wrong. My father patted my aunt on her back and told her that I was greeting her. She gave me an unbothered facial expression and told him that she had heard me, but unfortunately she does not speak to the devil worshipper. I glared at her and asked her what the heck she's talking about, and Nicole squeezed my hand tightly and asked me to calm down and not make a scene, otherwise all eyes would be on us. I listened to her and then proceeded to ask my aunt in a much more calm manner what the heck she's talking about. She rolls her eyes again and just says that she was not going to entertain or talk to somebody who was proudly sinning. I laughed at the comment a bit because, wow, I really believe that this woman changed. My stepmother tried to intervene by telling my aunt to stop being judgmental. This is not the place to be acting like this. My aunt told my stepmother to shut up and go attend to her heathen son who was going to hell. I saw the anger in my stepmother's eyes flare up, but my father pulled her back and asked her to calm down. My father then asked my aunt what was wrong with her because he thought that she had wanted to fix things with me. My aunt rolled her eyes and admitted that the only reason she was being nice to me and Jake was because my grandmother had told her that unless she fixed her relationship with me, she was not allowed to come to the family reunion. My grandmother had also told her that she would not accept her ways. She then continued to say that she never planned on ever going with me again, and she was not serious about meeting up with Jake. All she wanted was to please her mother, and since she got her approval, there's no longer a need for her to pretend anymore. Well, I could not believe the words coming out of her mouth. So she was pretending all this time, just so that she could come to the family reunion. I really can't believe this. She did all this because she wanted my grandmother's approval. I cannot believe that I've actually thought that she was actually being genuine. Only for me to finally realize that this woman did not have a genuine bone in her body. I decided to walk over to Andrew, Jake, and my cousin Violet with Nicole before I lost my cool. Jake immediately asked me what was wrong because things looked a bit heated. I told him that he was right. I should have never trusted my aunt. He hugged me and told me to not let it get to me and reminded me that this is a very special day for me. I nodded my head in agreement with him because this was a special day. I have never introduced a partner to my family, so bringing Nicole here was a big deal. Violet informed me that my aunt was saying very negative things about me to her mother. She also told me that my aunt had been boasting to everyone except my grandmother about how she had gotten my grandmother while fooling me. As I was about to say something, my aunt walked up to us all. I asked her what she wanted, and she looked at both me and Nicole with disgust. She said she could not believe that I've actually brought my evil plaything for a family event, and she proceeded to also say that I was a disgusting person and that I should leave because this is a Christian home. My blood was boiling with anger at that point, and all I wanted to do was slap her because she had drawn all the attention onto us. So now everybody was looking at us. She also mentioned how she did not understand why my grandmother was being so supportive of such sinful behavior. I told her that she needed to walk away right now, otherwise things would be getting very ugly between us. My grandmother walked over and asked what's going on. My aunt completely ignored me and told me that she did not care and called me dirty. She continued to tell me that she does not talk to dirty people and that I'm covered in such ugly sin. Jake told her to leave me alone, and she rolled her eyes at him, and she proceeded to call him very offensive slurs, which, by the way, triggered me. I start to shout at her at this point. I shouted that it's funny that she's calling us dirty, and she was the one who got pregnant from a one-night stand. As soon as I uttered those words, her eyes flared up with anger. My grandmother told me to just calm down before I say something that I'll regret. Jake also told me to calm down, and I told him to leave me alone because I was trying to defend him and there was nothing that I would ever regret saying to my aunt. Jake whispered that I must not have forgot that my aunt is my cousin's mother and I might end up hurting him, but honestly, all I saw was red. I was fuming with anger. My aunt starts calling me every single offensive slur in the book and proceeds to say that my father should be ashamed of creating an evil, heathen daughter who would never give him grandchildren. I laughed at her and told her that she was saying something very ironic. She glared at me and asked me what am I talking about. Jake tried to pull me back, but I yelled at him to let me go. My aunt told me that it's a good thing that my mother was not alive because she would be so damn ashamed of me. I won't lie, when she uttered those words, they hurt me to the core, because I lost my mother at a very young age, and growing up without her was difficult and challenging. My grandmother told my aunt that she had said enough, and that she wants my aunt to leave. My aunt shook her head and said that the people who should be leaving were the ones who were devil worshippers and were sleeping with people of the same gender. Without even thinking, and honestly, I said it out of anger. As soon as she said that, I blurted out that since she was saying that Andrew would be leaving with us too. Jake yells at me to keep quiet. My aunt then asked me what I'm talking about, and I told her that because of her stuck-up, judgmental ways, Andrew is not, able to be who he truly is. She kept quiet, and I glared at him with open eyes, and I continued to tell her that she is such a terrible mother, and that she doesn't even realize how afraid her other son is of her. My aunt asked Andrew what I was talking about, and he kept quiet. I told her that Andrew's gay and has been happily dating my stepbrother. Nicole shook her head at me and told me that I was wrong for what I just did, and I asked her how, and she told me that she was extremely disappointed in me. All of a sudden, my aunt starts hitting Andrew violently. Jake tried to hold her back, but she starts hitting him too. She called them all sorts of slurs and insults. Violet and I tried to pull her off Andrew, but she's really a strong woman, you know. My grandmother, she started screaming and screaming that Andrew was bleeding. I looked over at Andrew's nose and it was gushing out blood, while my aunt was still hitting him. I saw that his eyes were closed and I started to panic. I took out my phone and called the police. My father rushed to us and he managed to get my aunt off my cousin, and my stepmother was helping my stepbrother to handle Andrew because aunt had punched him right in the nose, which must have been extremely painful. Me and Violet attended to Andrew, who was still bleeding, and my aunt was still trying to attack Andrew and Jake, but luckily my father had a tight grip on her. She was still calling them offensive slurs, and the police finally arrived after 10 minutes and my aunt was immediately arrested. Jake told her that he was going to press charges against her, and that he hoped that she would get a criminal record, so that she could get fired from work. The police took her away and we took Andrew to the hospital. I could not believe what had just happened. I mean, I knew that my aunt was, evil, but never did I expect her to attack her own son. I mean, what the heck? She practically broke his nose. Well, I guess it was my fault for exposing Jake and Andrew's relationship to spite my aunt. I honestly hope that Andrew and Jake would forgive me for what I've done. Final update. Guys, it's been about a month since that chaotic drama-filled family reunion event in the last update. Firstly, Jake and Andrew both pressed charges of assault against my aunt. She was lucky enough to not receive jail time. She has to complete a 1-year anger management program, and if she does not complete the program in time, then she's going to be sentenced to a year in prison. I have not seen or spoken to her since that day, and neither have Jake or Andrew. We all decided to cut her off. Even my father and stepmother cut her off. So we all have no idea what she's even doing with her life. Nicole and I are still together. She's ignored me for a while, a whole week after the incident, and she felt that she could not date a person who would throw their loved one under the bus just to get the satisfaction of revenge. Which I completely understood. I left her to calm down a bit and then asked to meet up, and that's when we talked things through. I explained to her that I did not intentionally throw Andrew under the bus. I just badly triggered my aunt's words, but that still does not justify my actions. Luckily, she understood where I was coming from and agreed to start over with me. Things have gotten pretty serious with her, and my family adores her. Even though Jake and Andrew have forgiven me, we're still working on our relationship. Andrew felt extremely betrayed by me, and he told me that he felt that getting revenge on my aunt by trying to spite her almost ruined his and my relationship, because he asked me to not tell her about his relationship or sexuality, and I decided to just blurt it all out. I still feel terrible and guilty for doing it. It's my fault that they got attacked by my aunt. If I had just kept my mouth shut, none of this would have happened, which proves that getting revenge isn't always worth it. I could have lost the relationship I have with my cousin, and we've always been close. It just shows that revenge can really take you out of your character and make you do things that you never would have done. As much as I'm glad that my aunt got what she deserved, I feel guilty for the way that it happened, so I guess revenge can be bittersweet. I was just waiting on something to happen to this aunt. Luckily for us, at the end of the story, a little bit of karma comes after the aunt when she's arrested and has to do a year of anger management, or she's going to end up back in prison. Let me know your thoughts about this, guys. Maybe you've had some family or in-laws that have done something similar to this story that reminds you of a story that you want to share. Drop it down below in the comment section, guys. My name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories like this every single day. Make sure that you go ahead, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on these daily stories. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I'll see you tomorrow. And remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.